A while back, I saw this video on YouTube from EPS Garage. It's a new channel. I'll link to it below so you can check it out. The video was about making some business card holders, and it got me thinking how many of you in my audience like to make multiples of small items, maybe a bunch of drawer pulls for a big project, or you're making small items to sell at craft shows or to give away as gifts. Either way, if you're going to batch out a bunch of something, it's better to go about it a little more deliberately than what I saw in this video. Now, before you think this is a large channel beating up on a smaller one, please understand the whole calling out thing here is just in jest. Andy at EPS Garage and I talked about me making this video ahead of time. I'm not criticizing the way he did it. I'm just sharing some lessons that I've learned over the years, which not only solve a couple problems I saw in this video, but which I think will benefit you and my audience as well. So as we talk for the next couple minutes, don't just think of this particular project. Think of the lessons that I'm sharing that can be applied to any project where you have to make multiple identical copies of an item. So the first problem involves boring multiple holes at the drill press. And a drill press is a great tool for small scale production work. In this example, he had to bore 7 holes in 2 rows with 2 different sized bits, and none of the holes go all the way through the workpiece. Of course, it's smart to use a fence and a stop block to try to make this a little more repeatable, but he still only bores 1 hole at a time, moving the block as he goes. Now remember, these are non-through holes in 2 different sizes, so you can't just flip or rotate the workpiece to bore opposite corners with a single setup. But I still think there's a better way. What I did was install 2 stop blocks. I can now bore the 2 outer holes in the row of 4 by shifting the part from one block to the other. Then I cut a shim that I could slip between the blocks in the workpiece to bore the remaining 2 holes in that row. So instead of 4 setups, the entire row of 4 holes was finished with a single setup. And I can batch through all the rest of my parts without turning off the drill press, without moving anything. The second row of holes are of a larger size, so a setup change is needed for these, but I would still use a 2-block process. So I would do the outer holes, then I would slip in another shim to position the piece for the 3rd hole, completing the row in a single setup as well. So that's 7 holes in 2 rows with 2 different bits with just 2 setups instead of 7. And so you can quickly make a lot of identically drilled parts just like that. Another problem I saw in the video was tear out from his router table. And that's the point I really felt like I wanted to offer some help. Because tear out means extra steps or even the loss of parts. And nobody wants that when you're in production mode. This also seemed like a little bit of a safety issue to me. Again, I'm not criticizing Andy. I've done this too. I think we all have. It's easy to justify getting our fingers a little closer to the bit than maybe we should, especially if we're just making a couple cuts. But when you batch out multiple copies of a single item, you dramatically increase the overall chances of something going wrong. Not just because of the large number of cuts, but because we tend to kind of get in a groove and turn on autopilot when we're doing these repetitive tasks. And many of the woodworkers I know that are missing fingers who have had serious injuries, it was from repetitive tasks like that. So I like to make a custom jig for those situations. It can make the process safer and it can help with tear out. For this particular project, the jig couldn't be simpler. I'd make a couple of cutouts and a piece of plywood. The cutouts hold the block of wood in its 2 orientations. That's all there is to it. It only took a couple minutes to make the jig and a scrap of wood, and it's going to pay off big. The jig provides a longer edge to run against the router fence for more stability. It keeps my finger safely away from the bit. It's quick to swap parts in and out. And best of all, the jig provides support for the wood fibers as the bit exits the cut, so it eliminates tear out. Andy said at the end of his video that he would have done things differently if he had been making more copies rather than just the quick video demonstration he was showing on YouTube. He might have done something similar to what I did, or he may have come up with his own creative solution. But that's the simple lesson here. It's always worth taking a couple minutes at the beginning of a project, or even sometimes in the middle when you're switching to a new task, to think about what problems you may encounter and how you may solve them, especially if you're going to be repeating the same steps over and over again. So ask yourself, what will make these steps more efficient? What could make them more accurate or more consistently repeatable? Can a jig improve the quality of the cut? Can it make it safer? All of these questions are worth exploring, and finding the right solution can be the difference between a pile of great projects or a bunch of mistakes. I want to thank Andy at EPS Garage for being such a good sport, and please thank him yourself by visiting his channel at the link below this video. But before you do, you've got to see this. The Whiteside family has been making router bits in North Carolina for half a century. Their quality is exceptional, their service is fantastic, and I like supporting small family businesses. That's why my cabinet is full of Whiteside bits, and I think yours should be too. Check them out at the link below this video.